con el SPY, igualmente en el tema de opciones. Entonces, antes de empezar, vamos a ir por el tema de las legales. A ver, un segundo, listo. Listo. Advertencia: el contenido de esta presentación no debe ser considerado como recomendación de comprar o vender algún instrumento financiero. La información contenida está destinada a fines educativos e ilustrativos y no se debe considerar como asesoramiento de inversión. Los instrumentos financieros que se negocian en la bolsa de valores tienen riesgos que cada persona debe evaluar antes de colocar su dinero en este mercado. No prometemos resultados en tu trading. Dicho esto, el día de hoy estamos escuchando una conferencia justamente de Jerome Powell. Vamos a escuchar. De hecho, el día de hoy tenemos una conferencia de Jerome Powell. Por eso vamos a ver cómo se mueve el mercado. Vamos a ver. As leaders, we can bring the ideas of our faculty to life and make a significant contribution to the world. Entonces, aquí es donde hemos marcado las entradas, perdón, los soportes y resistencias. En este caso, el día de hoy es 3 de abril. Tenemos el bajo del día, 517.67, que lo tenemos acá, 517.67 marcado. Mejor. Entonces vamos a ponerlo así. Este es el día de hoy, el bajo de hoy, que es 517.67, aquí lo podemos ver. Está marcado acá, 517.67. El alto del día, 520.95. Aquí está, 520.95 marcados. Bajo de, perdón, el open, bueno, el alto del día anterior, que es 518.98, que está aquí. Y el bajo del día anterior, que es 516.48, que está aquí. Entonces, teniendo esos puntos marcados, las nuevas de Ichimoku del día todavía están muy abajo, no lo estoy marcando. Entonces vamos al de 1 hora. En el de 1 hora, si vemos que están aquí las nuevas de Ichimoku, ¿no? Hemos marcado con amarillo esta línea de Ichimoku aquí abajo y esta línea de Ichimoku aquí arriba. Entonces, sobre esas líneas de Ichimoku, trabajar la de arriba. Subirlo un poquito. ¿Vale? Entonces el día de hoy he hecho la subida, ha mantenido y ahorita está retrocediendo. Vamos a ver qué dice Jerome Powell y ver así que tenemos que podamos mover el mercado. Vamos a la vela de 3 minutos. En vela de 3 minutos, acá vemos la Ichi de abajo, la JH que ya hemos marcado días anteriores. Y acá lo que simplemente se puede marcar, aquí están, la vela, una vela de Ichi, hasta la segunda, es una vela de Ichimoku, está aquí la amarilla, y la amarilla sigue siendo la vela de Ichimoku, la que acabamos de marcar. La negrita es un JH pasado, fuerte. Acá tenemos las 4 líneas dosajes, el alto y los bajos de días superiores y el día de hoy. Y acá simplemente lo que estamos marcando es una JH adicional, ¿no? Que en este caso ya lo rompió. Y vamos a ver qué pasa con lo que dice Jerome Powell. De momento, el día de hoy se ha movido, si ustedes ven, el día de hoy se ha movido de 517.7 a 520.95. Se ha movido 3 veces. justo va a hablar Jerome Powell en este. Vamos a ver qué hace. Tenemos nuestras zonas acá, 24, 04, 04, 6, 521. A 500, lo podemos bajar. Listo, mis opciones, tanto el call, el C, como el put. Listo, y ahora tenemos el mercado igualmente en un minuto. Entonces, vamos a ver cómo se mueve el mercado el día de hoy. En esta transmisión también podemos ver cómo se va moviendo el mercado.
Recently, the picture, which continues to be one of solid growth, strong but rebound. Labor market rebound. Workers and the continued gradual decline in wage growth. On inflation, it is too soon to say whether the recent readings represent more than just a bump. We do not expect that it will be appropriate to lower our policy rate until we have greater inflation is moving sustainably down toward 2%. Given the strength of the economy and progress on inflation so far, guide our decisions on policy. We've held our as shown in individual projections that the FOMC released just 2 weeks ago. My colleague if the economy evolves broadly as we expect, most FOMC participants see it as likely to be appropriate to begin lowering the policy rate at some point this year. Of course, that outlook is still quite uncertain, and we face risks on both sides. Reducing too soon or too much could result in a reversal of the progress we've seen on inflation. As progress on inflation continues and labor market tightness eases, these risks continue to move into better balance. As conditions evolve, monetary policy is supported by highly capable staff. We also draw as well as others engaged in the economy. And by objective, I mean that our analysis from personal or political bias in service to the public. We will not always get it right. No one does. But our decisions will all reflect our thinking. Transparency and accountability are fundamental for any government agency and democracy, but are especially important for one granted policy independence. That is essential to explain ourselves clearly, to describe what we're doing and why we're communication, and it is a job that is never complete. But we've come up with announcement decisions. We announced those decisions and we explained the thinking behind them in our post-meeting statement and press conference. Minutes of operations and a quarterly summary of economic and policy projections of each FOMC. We publish a monetary policy year and the year appears before Congress to present that report and to answer any questions that are lines of our oversight committee members. In 2020, we completed a long public review of our policy framework, and late this year, we will begin just such another review. My colleagues and I explained our views on the economic and monetary policy. Like this one, in a visits to communities around the country as part of an extensive outreach, which we seek input from individuals and groups throughout society. Transparency is an affirmative and proactive commitment to the public. Last, to make the public's trust, we don't some of which directly or indirectly involve the economy. That in our mandate, such as, for example, particular tax and spending policies, immigration policy, and trade policy. Climate change is another current example. And those that charged with this responsibility. The Fed has received no such charge. Have a narrow rule relates to our responsibilities as a bank supervisor. The public will expect institutions and supervise and be able to manage the material risks that they face, which over time are likely to include climate-related financial risks. We will remain alert to the risk that we pressure to expand that rule over time, but we are not. We seek to be climate policymakers. In short, doing our job. Thank you very much. To organize the conversation. Last couple of years, I wonder if you could just spend some time last years. So what is actually different this time? Very severe labor shortage. So the supply side, as well as overheated demand from the when rates were low. Was both the unwinding of the pandemic-related distortions to both the supply and demand in the economy, and the effects of tight monetary policy. So today, what we think we're seeing, inflation has come down sharply together, and they work together. We think that tight was a keeper, as I mentioned, a very significant supply side recovery. And the next few years, next year or two, that might play out in the inflation picture. I suppose inflation expectations, which in our framework, and I'm thinking of most monetary economists, people think that they're having probably fixed inflation to return to 2% despite it moving up. And that's a price setters and wage setters in the economy, if they believe that inflation will be 2%, then that's pretty happen. So also,
Ahorita tenemos la vela así, tocando la mano.
around that.
El motivo por el que no entro todavía es porque bueno, ya estoy en entrevista, dando mayores datos.
The labor market as well as supply, but demand reflected in lower job moving back down toward more sustainable levels. So we think those two forces that I mentioned will be the ones we'll be looking for. We'll be looking at, of course, is home inflation as those affect the outlook. And the same thing about the labor market. What's happening in the labor market suggests that the labor market is continuing Can I just dig into the inflation point I mentioned? You know,
Básicamente necesitamos
that last little bit very hard because the first expectation getting stuck and then related to the signal to you that that is an issue or isn't an issue. Right. So important part of driving actually inflation. We want 3%, 2%, not 3.5%. I think that's look at surveys of businesses, households, forecasters. We look at other kinds of measures of inflation expectations, model based and things like that. We also look at what you can get from that expectation of or assessment of what and all. To 2%. That's but that's partly because of the very strong action that we took, and also because of our ongoing commitment to actually return inflation to 2% over time. So, and that that's by the and that doesn't should be. Let's flip to the other side. Quite strong. The unemployment is remained below 4% for the last years, and this is during the funds rate. Principle get inflation down significantly with it. economy's productive capacity. So as the economy is becoming tight, situation. Pandemic has been, a textbook of unusual situations that and are and we just don't know the answer to that. We're not going to prematurely assume that there's no more. So, for instance, that there probably is more pain to be had there.
That integration has been in terms of the supply side. Can you just expand on that? Is that how important is that relative to supply chain?
Breaks up the economy as we see them. And so from that standpoint, we've been with labor and still is if you talk to we talk to a lot of business people, it's still difficult to much greater than had been thought. Immigration moved up quite a bit over the last 2 years, and this is typically the Census Bureau does order the people work the border and that kind of thing. Got a much growing over 3% a year. We're forecasting a recession for 2023. No, it did not happen. Is that there are significantly more people working in the country, and they've been potential significant capacity is actually bigger, but not a tighter one. Really, an unexpected and unusual thing. Again, we don't make judgment calls, but that's what we're seeing.
So it's interesting in this discussion we have talked about. This seems to have played out. It looks like we have a much bigger cycle, and then another think about balancing the impact of everything in different sectors. So I guess the headline for me would be that the good thing about China is working and working for
order filled. And many companies as well took the opportunity to turn out. A lot of companies that have longer term fixed rate debt at pretty rates, and they're not as affected by it. That's at the same time. If you look at interest sensitive spending, either in half year, there's very significant effects there. And I do think you see the economy. It's not right and maybe too soon to conclude there's some terms of monetary policy transmission. But it still leaves of the economy kind of grown over 3% during a year in which
No sé, pero estoy intentando. Presionamos entrando.
And I think in
doing its job. I would go back to what I said in my remarks to start, which is we think the risks are two-sided. So there's a risk of if you cut too soon, the risk is that the product, particularly in the 70s, we don't think that's what's happening here. That's a risk that we have to manage. The other risk if we get in the labor market and order economic hill. And so we're trying to steer between those two risks. Obviously, we're trying to be in the middle and get the timing right. It's very challenging. There is no risk-free path. And I think we're in a position to assess the economy moving in either of those directions. So the risk. It's never worked the case that it's have a baseline understanding, but the material, I think we're very much in that position now. What's the thing you really want? It does seem to be single-minded about the dual. I mean, framework. It's pretty much that goal, or even better than goal. Then you focus on the one. And that's what we did after inflation came up in March of 21, and then we got inflation under control. But as inflation has come down, we're not a single mandate bank. The key thing I'll end with, though, is price stability. price stability, that we're not going to have these long periods of tight labor markets, which benefit everyone. For the last 2 or 3 years, the people at the lower end of the income spectrum were getting the large. So a tight labor market overall. Forgets. How I is it possible we could go back to the 2.83% that we had? Every bit of the economy is difficult to forecast. There isn't one that's more productivity, for example, which is one of the key elements of longer term growth. So very, very and of output for it. Expectation to go around, I guess 1.8% is the median, something below 2%. That's given our expectations that productivity might be 1.5%, 1%, 1.5% kind of thing. Productivity growth in output per hour. That's a pretty good place to be. We've had into a new period of higher productivity. Generation. So people argue, yeah. Of the pandemic, as America's went in and started business at that time. Also, you've seen a real, they could become a longer run productivity increase or not. Those might just be things that we need to get 1.5% productivity. They might it just is unknown. I think the range of potential increase productivity. Everyone sees that, but that's not what we're seeing in a number. It's too soon for AI to be affecting, I think, productivity. Productivity, then the question will be, what does it do to labor? Is it going to replace labor or augment labor or both? And so in what proportions? To say about longer run growth, but of course, it would be great if that were the case. And then just toward stable prices and maximum employment through the business cycle. That's what we can do with business. A crisis responder, we're really important crisis responder. Great tools for it. So that's a key thing that we do. We also regulate and supervise banks, and it's important. monetary policy, really asking about the effects of AI. What will that look like? And it doesn't really matter that much. 2% will keep the economy growing and the labor market strong.
Can I shift yourself? Pre-pandemic, target what happened? I think that was focused on
For 20 years around the world. Productivity, demographics, and adult. The time when you're bounded by zero, and you won't be able to cut and make and support the economy. So this was a big, and that was a big thing. And then so really still really early in the first quarter of 2021 was a surprise to most people. Again, after the cut. It is coming down significantly. So that was, we had. And then we did when it began to really get the full market data inflation. And when we pivoted, we really moved. So, it was the right thing to do. So, the good news is that policies that can move quickly. The emergency tools we have, as I mentioned, are agile compared to other government policies, and they have a significant effect on the economy. So I think we've gotten to is wood a pretty good place. We're using our tools now to try to bring inflation down the rest of the way to 2% while keeping the economy strong and the labor market strong as well.
Maybe others with external pressure from the Fed from outside over rates. And you have faced this pressure over the last 6 years. The decision making of the from there.
So the thing is, internally we have discipline on this because everybody who works at the Fed knows to do what we're going to do it for economic reasons, and that's it, as I mentioned in my remarks. And I mean, I think you can go back and look. They can read the verbatim transcripts of the things that we discussed during. It doesn't with the election calendar saying when there was happening in the economy. So the communication people need to understand that that's what we do. It's
$1,000.
and do what it is the right thing for the economy, even longer term, without regard to kind of outside considerations. And it's important to just have people know that, which is why I brought it up. I don't have concerns that that it's going to be a problem for us because we're going to do what the right thing is for the economy over time.
Well,
Ganamos $1,000.
You've served in different White House administrations. Look at your job.
Acá entramos perdiendo, pero encontramos otro lote. Creo que las noticias fueron bastante positivas. O sea, dentro de todo, necesitaba más data. Sin embargo, digamos que lo que está diciendo que la economía iba bien, que digamos no estaba, que la economía estaba bien, estaba dando buenos resultados, que estaba más alta para ver si bajaban las tasas de interés o no. Pero en general los reportes que había en Estados Unidos no habían estado siendo muy buenos, ¿no? Estaba enfocado en dos, en la productividad digamos, del mercado estadounidense, y todo va a depender de los siguientes reportes, ¿no? Entonces todo se va a mover a partir de ello. Porque sigue la entrevista. Sin embargo, el día de hoy nosotros ya hemos hecho cerca de $1,000. Para lo más grande, ahorita está abierto 145. Lo voy a poner más acá para que lo puedan ver. Hoy se llenó. El día de hoy ganamos $1,300. Todo eso es gracias a la estrategia trading que tenemos. Vamos a abrirlo un poquito más aquí. Acá está. Close, $1,300. Entonces el día de hoy hemos hecho $1,300. Podemos ir un poco más arriba, pero creo que hasta ahí está. Bueno, vamos a ver si encontramos otra entrada más adelante para seguir haciendo trading. De momento, muchas gracias por ver el canal. Suscríbete, dale like y comparte esta información para que tus amigos también puedan empezar a ver el potencial del mundo de trade y puedan empezar también a hacer sus operaciones. De momento, muchas gracias. Vamos a verlo así. De momento, muchas gracias. Y el día de hoy, estamos siendo 3 de abril, 11:54 de la mañana, $1,300.